So I was no math major in college, quite the opposite, but I don't think that finishing two projects and then starting four more is the best arithmetic to help manage your whips. I will see you on the other side. Happy summer and welcome to this episode of Gary Knits, Gary Rides, a Craftivism podcast at the intersection of making things and doing good. My name is Gary. You can find me on social media on Ravelry as Gary Knits and Rides, and on Blue Sky as just Gary Knits. I'm a knitter and a crocheter and sometimes do some designing as well. I hope you're well. I hope you had a nice Memorial Day weekend. Enjoyed the day off if you had the day off. Everything that I mention today is going to be found in the show notes. You can see them down below, or you can scan this QR code to be taken right to the Google document that will have links to everything that I mentioned today, from patterns to yarn dyers to Craftivism ideas. So go check that out. Again, summer's officially here, so they say. It's actually pretty nice around here these days. Kind of perfect 70s weather here in Southern California, where I'm joining you from. It's been a hectic, busy couple of weeks. We are gearing up to get ready for vacation, so there's just a lot of the crafting stuff that I've been working on has been in anticipation of that, trying to get some things finished, some things progressed in anticipation of deadlines that I have after we get back from vacation, and then getting stuff set up so I have the all-important knitting projects to take with me on vacation. So we're going to get into all of that. In terms of what's been going on the last couple of weeks, like I said, it's been been pretty busy around here. Long weekend notwithstanding, we've been they had the LA yarn crawl, so I'm going to talk about what I did there in terms of what I purchased at the end. But I was able to head up to the Altered Stitch, which is a yarn store north of Los Angeles. Had been in Studio City. They just changed owners, and the new owner opened up a new shop in Van Nuys, and I think this was actually her first weekend opening. But the reason I wanted to go up there, not only just to see the space, I'd never been to the old store, but Ross from Twisted Ambitions Yarn was doing a trunk show there, and Ross had worked on a project with me a couple of years ago. It was the Fatima Hines hat and cowl set that we did as one of our End Aids knit-alongs, but I'd never met him in person, so I headed up there. It's not a quick drive. Luckily, typically on a Saturday, which is when I went, it would not have been terrible traffic, but this being Los Angeles, you never know, and so it took me like an hour and a half to get up there, but it was totally worth it. The shop looked great. I can't believe they pulled it together in what they said was just a couple of days. And Ross had a great assortment of his yarn. So we got to hang out for a little bit, chit chat about what he was doing in LA, what he has coming up. So he's going to be at Flock in August, where I'll get to see him again. But in the meantime, I think he has a couple more trunk shows. I think he may be at like Arkansas Yarn Co. this weekend. And I think he said he was going to be at DFW, but I'm not sure if that is before or after Flock. Anyway, super sweet guy. Some of his new colors were fantastic. I'll show you what I picked up because, surprising no one, I was not able to not come away from LA Yarn Crawl with a little bit of yarn. I gotta support my friends, and who I know I'll use it at some point in my life. So from there, the plan had been to go to, there's a yarn store. So I was going to come back and end up at Knitting Tree LA, which is the closest yarn store to me. and one of my local knitting groups were meeting up there. There's a brewery kind of in the complex where Knitting Tree is. And they have outdoor seating and food trucks and all that stuff. And so our local South Bay Drunken Knitters group was going to meet up sort of at the end of the yarn crawl and just everyone show what they picked up and et cetera, et cetera. So I wanted to end up there. I had gotten a delayed start in the evening because some friends of ours from out of town just happened to be in the neighborhood because they had a family member who was graduating from USC, and they were, I think their Airbnb may have been up here. They used to live in our town, and I hadn't seen them since, well, several years, and the whole family's with them. So like we got a call and they're like, we're 5 minutes away, can we come by? And so like 13 people showed up at the doorstep, and so that chit-chatting with them got me out of the late start. So my plan had been to go to a store I'd not ever been to called Jennifer Knits in Brentwood, which apparently is a lovely store, very focused on sort of high-end cashmere yarns and things like that. So I thought that would be sweet to at least stop there, because since I was already all the way up there, it was kind of on the way. But in order to make it back in time to Knitting Tree to meet up with my group, I decided to skip that stop, and I stopped at Wild Fiber Studio because my friend Sarah from Sea Change Fiber was doing a trunk show there. She had done it last year. I had stopped by to see her there, and I had planned to do the same thing. I did not realize that she had just sent her yarn and she was not actually there. But it was great to stop there, saw all of her yarn, did not pick up any of it because I had a thought to make something, but I didn't have the pattern and the exact quantities. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I can just order it online. I'll figure out how much I'm going to need rather than overbuy and end up with more stash. But she has some fantastic new to me bases. There was like a Rambouillet silk linen maybe, and then there was another like maybe merino silk, some really nice summery types of yarn. So if you've not used Sarah's yarn, it's fantastic. She does, I think, almost exclusively non-superwash when she's wool, but lots of really interesting blends, and she's great. She's, I think, going to be at Flock as well, so I'll see her there. But we worked on a project a couple years ago, a colorwork hat and mitt set, again for one of my fundraising make-alongs. So even though I didn't get to see her, I got to see her beautiful yarn, and then came back to Knitting Tree, where ran into Lindsay from Olive Fiber Arts, and I'm going to forget her name, apologies, but the dyer behind Fiction Fiber. So she's local. Lindsay used to be local, now lives in Atlanta. There was also some bag makers there. So Annette, who was traveling, wasn't there, who's the owner of Knitting Tree LA and the mastermind behind the Emotional Support Chickens. She was traveling, so she wasn't there. I didn't get to catch up with her. But she always does a great job of bringing in folks for trunk shows during Yarn Crawl weekend. So hung out there for a little bit, then went back and had a drink and knit for a while with the Drunken Knitters. It was a very gray and cold day in LA, so sitting outside and knitting, I mean, we were bundled up. I mean, Southern California bundled up. I had a light jacket on and my little it's over there now, but my little bubble bandana from Stephen West. I'd worn that because I used one of Sarah's yarns in there from Flock last year, and I wanted to show it to her, but she wasn't there. But anyway, it was kind of a cold and gloomy day, but we made the best of it and had a great time knitting together. So that was super fun. Otherwise, we ended up our Los Angeles Philharmonic season with an invitation to a rehearsal. So with our subscription, sometimes we get invited to rehearsals, and this one actually worked out really well. It was a Gershwin piano concerto, which was fantastic. Another piece by a composer called Carolyn Shaw, which is inspired by the Griffith Observatory here in Los Angeles. That was fantastic. And then it was also Sprach Zarathustra, Richard Strauss, one of the Strausses. The 2001, bum, 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 from 2001 A Space Odyssey. I was not really super looking forward to that one just because I feel like um, I've heard it before. But now that I come to think of it, I probably have only heard that like the opening sequence a lot, and the rest of it was fine, but not my favorite of the three pieces. But the Gershwin concerto was probably one of the best things that I heard this season. So that was really fun. Otherwise, like I said, there's been a lot of knitting going on. Something you may notice, and a lot of that was around and around and around. So we've been finishing up watching some of the stuff we've been watching. So we wrapped up Hacks, which was a great season. I thought I was sort of halfway through it. I was kind of like, oh, have we kind of has it run its course? But I thought they did a nice job of like, especially the second half of the season, sort of coming up with some fresh stuff. And then we just finished the other night, the final episode of season 2 of The Last of Us. My gosh. I feel like you may need to check myself into therapy after the amount of trauma that season put us through. And I can't believe it was like only like 7 episodes, and I hope it's not another 2 years before we get another season. I'm kind of bummed out with the way that streaming has worked, where it's like, you get like 7 or 8 episodes, it only seems like anymore, and then you have to wait another 2 years to get them. But we finished it up, and I enjoyed this season, although it was very tough. And then we've been watching My Brilliant Friend. So I think it's HBO's adaptation of the Elena Ferrante books, which were global bestsellers, and I just saw that the New York Times put the first book in the series, which I think is called My Brilliant Friend, as like the best book of the century so far. I have not read the book, and it may be something for me to try in Italian, because as I'm learning from a book I'm reading in translation, that I know the English version, the translation is not as good, so maybe I should try to read it in Italian. We're enjoying it, but I just really don't get what people have loved so much about these characters. They're just, and I get that, not every character has to be likable. It is very interesting to see sort of this slice of life in Naples, sort of right after World War II, and the sort of the difficulties and the toughness of that life, because Italy, especially southern Italy at that time, was quite poor. But my goodness, these two main characters are just tough to watch, because one is just a complete jerk and the other one is a complete dolt. So I don't know. We're going to continue to watch it, but I am a little bit mystified about the just sort of love for these books and these characters. Again, I haven't read the book, so maybe the writing is exquisite and explains a lot more, or makes things a lot more clear than the adaptation. Because the real challenge for me is like, I just don't understand what's motivating these people to do these things certain times. Anyway, chime in the comments if you have watched the adaptation or read the books about what you loved about it, or if some of my frustrations are felt by you. And I think that's it. Speaking of things in the last 2 weeks, we've been doing a giveaway here on this channel. So last episode, and I think I'm going to do this kind of monthly from now on. So maybe the first, maybe this, let's see, we did this. This is, I guess, the second episode of the month. It's coming out at the end of May. So the second month, we'll give away something. In the first episode of the month, the first half of the month, we will announce how you're going to win. So last episode, I was talking about having gotten a bunch of Woolens and Nosh DK stealth striping yarn and being interested in knitting a DK pattern. Thank you all so much for commenting. So many great ideas. I've put them all in my Ravelry queue already to sort of have them, or in my favorites, so that I know when I go to search for a DK pattern, I have some already lined up. So thank you all for commenting below. And because I forgot to draw the winner before I started filming, I'm going to put the name of the winner up here. And if I know who you are from your handle, I will reach out to you. But if not, please, if that is you, shoot me an email at Gary Knits, Gary Rides, all one word, no underlines, at gmail.com, and I will get you a skein of yarn. We can maybe chat about color preference or weight preference, but I'm trying to clear through my prize stash, so it may be a little bit of a grab bag. Anyway, so congratulations. I appreciate, again, all of the recommendations. Keep them coming. If you have DK socks and you're seeing this for the first time, let me know what you like, because I think that may be my next sock after the ones that I already have started. In terms of craftivism, there's a lot going on with Pride Month coming up. I want to start by talking about the Pride Pod Mal, which is a very low-key, just for fun, make-along that I'm doing kind of alongside a couple other podcasters. Peggy, who's the Kick-Ass Knitter on Instagram and has her audio podcast called Spinning on Two Wheels. Martin from the Welsh Tenor and Knit 365 is also playing along, as is Stephanus from Be Extra Knitting. So we got a core group. If you're a podcaster in the fiber space and you want to jump in, join us, that would be great. We're working on trying to figure out the logistics with everybody's schedule to do some sort of either Zoom knit night or live stream on YouTube second half of the month, so we can all kind of have a few weeks to work on what we're working on and then come together and show everybody, chit chat for a bit. As I said, this is very low key. The only rules are to make something. It could be a whip. I don't really care. You could start something new. That'd be great too. But the designer or the yarn dyer or one of your notions makers, bag makers, should be a member of the LGBTQ plus community. There is an Excel, Google Sheets resource list, which I will link to down below. It's also in our Ravelry group. So if you go to Ravelry and search for Pride Pod Mal, you'll find the group. There's a resource list where I've put together a list of both podcasters and dyers, yarn designers, notions makers, etc. I'm going to be updating that hopefully in the next day or so. I mentioned last episode a new app called Everywhere is Queer. It is a database of all sorts of retailers and sellers of items that are part of the LGBTQ plus community. And so what I'm going to do is just go in there and type in knitting and yarn and crochet and see who pops up and make sure I get those folks into the resource list. But it's a great list of people who are in the community and may or may not be having something special going on during Pride Month. So go check that out. Check out the resource list. But they do not have to be on the list to be eligible. Just any dyer, designer, whatever is welcome. And again, it's very low key. I will be doing weekly prizes. So starting the first week of June, we're going to kick this thing off on the 1st. It'll run through the 30th. So every week I'm going to go into the Ravelry thread, which is for whips and FOs, and post your pictures there. And once a week, I'm going to randomly pick someone and they're going to get something. I think I have enough sort of Pride Rainbow type of prizes so that we can do at least 4 weeks, at least one prize per week from that grape. So go over there, head over there. There's already a thread started just to sort of chit chat about what everyone's thinking about working on. I will start right before the 1st. I'll start the thread for FOs and whips so that folks can start posting their pictures there. I'm going to talk about my project here in a bit. If you've been following along on Instagram or in my shorts here, you know the yarn that I'm going to be using. So I will show you where I am on the planning stages of that project. So that's the Pride Pod Mal. Stay tuned for details on a knit night live stream, something along those lines. Hopefully we can pull that together. Couple of other things. Lou over at Old Rusted Chair, I mentioned 2 or 3 episodes ago that she was doing another batch of her Rebel Girl yarn, which she uses as a fundraiser occasionally for abortion care at Tennessee. Well, I just saw she has some Rebel Girl yarn available, I think, on the website, but through the end of this, or through the 28th of May, she's donating 10% of all of her sales to abortion care at Tennessee. So she has some gorgeous yarn, and it's a great cause. So go over and check that out. Non-yarn related, but very cool. A new to me maker called Soap So Co. Up, I think, out of Canada, as this gorgeous, and here it is, soap bar of soap that is their Pride bar this year, inspired by Marsha P. Johnson, who was one of the very early trans activists who was at the Stonewall riots. They are donating 50% of their sales of that soap to an organization called Skipping Stone, which funds access to gender affirming care across the province of Alberta. So I think I may try to grab some of that, and it should be here at least for the final rounds of prizes for the make along, because why not? I think that's fantastic. So go check that out. Soap So Co is their Instagram handle. I will link to that and to their website down below. But beautiful soap. I think they said it's like peppermint and eucalyptus, and great cause. So we love that. Jimmy over at Jimmy Does Knitting. You should definitely check out his podcast, especially if you are a garment knitter, because he does amazing breakdowns on modifying sweaters. He's a prolific sweater knitter, a prolific knitter, full stop. But he does amazing breakdowns on sort of how he has modified different patterns to get them to do what he wants them to do. Also is working on this absolutely insane, in the best way, Intarsia sweater that was inspired by a Prada sweater. I've just done a little Intarsia recently, and two colors, very small. The yarn management nearly drove me out of my mind. So I don't know how he is doing what he's doing, but he's a master at it. So anyway, check out his podcast if you haven't. But he has a new design. He also designs things. He has a new design called his Troy Boy hat, or maybe a redo of a prior design. It's a DK weight, really cute little beanie. Here's a picture of it. You can fold it up, wear it down. Anyway, he is donating proceeds from sales of the Troy Boy hat pattern in June to an organization called the Ruth Ellis Center. It's based in Michigan. It serves LGBTQ plus youth with an emphasis on youth of color. So I think it's like a community center for youth in those communities, and so he's donating his sales proceeds for June for his Troy Boy hat. I think I mentioned it's a DK weight hat in June. So I'm definitely picking up a copy of that. It looks like a fantastic pattern to use for charity hats for Knit the Rainbow or someone like that. A couple of other things. These are not sales related. These are just other events that you can totally piggyback on the Pride Pod Mao with. The first is a maker out of Minnesota on Instagram as Fennel and Fiber. I believe her name is Mesa, and she is hosting a Make It Gay Make Along. Very similar to what we're doing with the Pride Pod Mao. It seems like it's very low key. Just make something using patterns or yarn from an LGBTQ plus maker, and she's doing prizes. As there's a hashtag, I think it's Make It Gay 25. I will link to it down below. I forgot to write it down. That's how you get kind of entered into the prize drawings, is using that hashtag on your project. And she's also hosting some Discord nights, I think a Zoom night, and even an in-person event local to her. So definitely go check that out. It sounds like a ton of fun, especially if you're local and you guys can hang out and knit together. And I'm going to try to reach out to her and just let her know we're doing this other thing, so maybe she can pop on our Zoom if we're able to do that as well. The other thing is Abigail at Covert Knit, also a podcaster, so go check out her podcast. She is doing, and I think she's done this before. I think this, back to Fennel and Fiber. I think this is, she said this is the second year she's done the Make It Gay, Make Along. But I think Abigail at Covert Knits also has done her Pride Sock-a-thon for a couple years in a row. Again, this is not just sock related. She's saying make anything you want, either rainbow themed or using supplies from a maker in the community. And there are going to be prizes in her Suckathon as well. There's a hashtag. I will link to it below. And she's just encouraging everyone who participates, if you are able, to make a donation to your local or an LGBTQ plus charity service provider that is important to you. She is, which is incredible, making a $50 per pair donation to the Trevor Project for every pair of socks that she knits during her Sockathon. So that's amazing, and a fantastic organization. So that was a lot of Craftivism ideas. Again, this time of the year, there's always just so much fun stuff going on around Pride. As I said when I talked a couple episodes ago about why, despite my sort of procrastination and sort of feeling down and whatnot, that I sort of signed back up to do another year of the Pride Pod Mal was just because things have been so tough, especially in the community, with all the attacks that have been going on here in the States, and I assume maybe other places as well, as things have sort of shifted one way, that it just felt like there was a real need to spread some joy and have some fun and celebrate the queer makers out there, and sort of put a spotlight on those folks. So that's why we're doing it, and I think that's probably why all these folks are doing it as well. So that is it for the Craftivism aspect of the show. Again, I say this all the time. If you see something, please shoot me a DM on Blue Sky, on Instagram. If you're there, drop a comment here on this episode or on any of the episodes, or shoot me an email. I love to highlight people in the fiber community who are taking their love of crafting and doing a little bit of good in the world with it, and I would love to be able to showcase it on my little channel. So thank you for that. Thank you for folks who have sent me ideas. I really, really appreciate it. Let's get to the knitting. As you may notice, I am wearing a knitted garment. You don't see too many of those around these parts. This is my only ever second garment that I've knit for myself. This is the Mohit shirt. I keep calling it the Mohit tee because it's a t-shirt. It's a little short sleeve t-shirt. But the actual pattern name is Mohit shirt by Pasquale Designs. And I had some fits and starts with this pattern in terms of not really loving the process of a raglan, losing count several times, having to rip out and start back up. But I could not be more thrilled with the way that it turned out, even though I was suspect all the way until I put it on with the neckband on it. So I can't really stand up here because I'm sort of jammed in this corner. But here's a photo of sort of a more full view of it, and also a photo of how I am expecting to wear this mostly, which is sort of under a chambray shirt, which is why I decided to use this yarn. So the yarn is Pearls Before Wine. This was part of my Stitch Out Loud collection that I curated for a fundraiser last year for AIDS Life Cycle. The colorway is called Ride Safe, Be Safe. It is an homage to day 2 of the ride, which is Safety Orange Day, and there's a little, if I can find a picture of Coney, I'll put a picture of Coney up here. There's a little cartoon character who is a life-size character on the ride called Coney. He's a safety cone. And the gals at Pearl Before Wine did a fantastic job just sort of totally capturing what I'd expect. You know, it would have been easy just to do like a bright orange yarn, but I love the way that they sort of captured the orange color, but also then kind of the blue of riding your bike up the coast in the ocean. And it turned out really, really great. I had posted a picture earlier, and one of it was Lee or Sarah, but they said, you know, they had not seen it knitted up, and they loved how the striping worked, or how the color you know, sort of played out with these sort of little micro stripes. So, you know, it would be interesting to see. I used helical knitting to try to spread out the orange so that you didn't get this sort of blob tie-dye effect. I don't know if you would have at the circumference. You may have just it may have just played out this way, and I may not have needed to go through all of the effort. But I thought it was worth it rather than having to you know, get past, you know, get down a bit and see that there's going to be this big patch of orange that flowed through the pattern. Better safe than sorry. So I'm very happy that I did it. I had a few little, you know, issues with the helical knitting where if you've done it before, you know, you start with one color and you do a round, and then when you come back, you start the next color, and then you shift where you start the next color every round. So you're where you switch the color kind of like works in a spiral. And it was interesting. It did block out, but when I finished it all up and I laid it out to do some measurements, because I knew that it was going to grow, and we'll talk about that in a second. And so I wanted to get the measurements pre-blocking because I liked the fit of it so much, and I was going to try to block it back to those measurements. But before blocking, you could actually see a line, not a line of color, just a line where the tension changed a little bit, kind of like when you row out and you get those slightly bigger stitches. But you could see this sort of spiraling kind of row through it. Again, it blocked out, no big deal. But there were a couple points where I messed up and I knit through where I was supposed to be changing yarn, and then tried to back it up and wasn't paying attention and made some mistakes. But I know where they are. No one else is gonna know where they are. So it's not that big a deal. But it was a new skill for me, so I enjoyed, you know, playing around with it and seeing how it worked. And I think, you know, I don't know if I needed to do it, but I'm glad I did, because I love how the colors spread out, and you got these little micro stripes instead of big blobs of color. So again, the pattern's called Mohit, Mohit. The pattern has longer sleeves. They come a little bit closer to the elbow, and there's some patterning like garter ridges at the closer to the cuff. I did not want longer sleeves. I really just wanted a t-shirt, and so I skipped that bit. Otherwise, I knit it pretty much to pattern. My problem with guys' sweaters, and why I am always hesitant to start one, is I always worry about the neck, because they always seem to be much wider, which I don't like. So I was hesitant when I knit this, because I finished the body, and you have this big hole, and I was like, there's just no way it's going to get closed enough. And actually, Jimmy of Jimmy Does Knitting had mentioned on a comment on one of the things, to bring it in closer. You don't pick up every single stitch when you pick up for the neck. Pick up 2 out of every 3 or something like that. And it may take a little trial and error, but that's one way to sort of close that gap up. So I had that in mind, and I went and looked, in the size I was doing. It said something like, pick up 120. I counted all the stitches. There were only 136. So I just went ahead and picked up all 136, and then decreased 16 away in the second round. I did, I think, 2 rounds of just plain stockinette before I switched to the ribbing. And after I decreased those away, I tried it back on, and I was like, wow, it really did pull in. One, just because of the picking up the stitches, I think, pulled it up, and then the decrease round. And I actually thought, with the ribbing, I think that's going to be about right. And so then I started doing the ribbing, and it seemed to be getting smaller and smaller. And then I was worried the other way, that I was like, I don't think it's going to fit over my head. So I went ahead and finished the ribbing. I did half twisted rib, so knit through the back loop purl. And I was just like, please, 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 please let this, like, even if it just barely fits over my head. And it actually it didn't require stretching it too much, and it fit, and it was just exactly how I would want the neckline to be. So that was fantastic. Similarly on the sleeves, I got down to where I was about ready to start the ribbing, and the sleeves seemed a little open, like the opening seemed a little wide. So I did a round of decreases, just to kind of tighten it up a little bit, and then did the ribbing, knowing that would pull it in as well. And I'm happy with, I could probably have made it a little smaller. I didn't want it like, gripping my arm, but I didn't want it like flapping around either. So I could have probably tapered it a little bit more in the arm. But I'm quite happy with the way it worked out. And then the only other thing was the length, and the pattern said to knit X number of inches from the split. It seemed really short to me, and so I took one of my t-shirts and I measured it, and I said, okay, that's what I'm going to knit to. And then I knit another inch, because I wanted to do a folded hem. Went through a whole discussion with my knitting group on Tuesday nights about the folded hem and how to do it, because I tried doing like a half inch, and I had picked up stitches on the inside and was binding off as I picked up the stitches, and it popped out, and it probably maybe it would have blocked out a little bit. But everyone said, no, you probably need a wider hem than half an inch, and bind off first. And if you really, really want to do a folded hem, sew it separately through the bind off edge, and pick up stitches, whip stitch it around. Or what they recommended, they said, I would just do like a garter band at the bottom, because I didn't want ribbing, because I didn't want it to kind of like pull in like that. Because again, I was looking for more like a t-shirt, not like a short sleeve sweater. And because I had already knit it extra long for the fold, I thought, okay, I'll just, I'm going to bind it off, do the folded hem, and do an inch, see how it looks. If I hate it, yeah, it'll be a pain, but I'll just snip it, rip out the bind off, and rip it back a bit, and then I can do a 1-inch garter ridge, and that'll be that. But it worked out great. The folded hem worked out very, very well. Looked like it was going to lay flat. I mean, it flopped up a little bit, but it was less than the shorter fold. And then I went to block it, and because it's superwash yarn, it's like I think it's 80-20 or 75-25. I knew it was going to grow, and that's why I took the measurements, so that I could like try to zhuzh it back up into a smaller size. It's still about a half inch longer than I would have liked. I think at some point maybe I will mist it and then pop it in the dryer, just to kind of tighten things up a little bit. But it's not too long. It doesn't feel like I'm wearing like a mini dress or anything like that. And otherwise, it fits very well. So very, very happy with the pattern. I think I have like 3 t-shirts that I want to do. I think the next one's going to be set in sleeves. Now that I've done the raglan and I see how it looks, I'm very happy. I did not love the process of the raglan, just because keeping stitch counts always frustrates me. Anyway, but I think that's all I have to say about it. I'm very excited. This was one of three projects that I, at the beginning of the year, said I wanted to do to have ready for the summer for like vacation and like outdoor activities where we had to sit. It's the only one that got done. So the crochet bucket hat got done, but needs to be reworked. Well, the other big sun hat did not. It got done, but needed to be ripped out. And then the crocheted top, if you followed along, you know the whole story there. That's going to be a next year project because it's going to take a lot longer than I thought. But I'm very very happy with the way it turned out, and I would highly, if you're a guy, you're looking for a t-shirt. That pattern is a great base. It's a great looking sort of sweater shirt on its own. It's just the detailing stuff was just a little bit more than what I wanted. So very very happy with the way that with that turned out. The other FO that I have, and I said up front, I finished two things and I started like a dozen others. Were my pair of shorty socks. This is for my friend in New York who sent me her measurements, and I said I wanted to make her some socks. So this is a using Kate Atherley's custom socks book, using her measurements, heel flap and gusset, and then I just did it as a shorty because that's the style of socks that she likes. This is Valkyrie Fibers Night Sister. This is not the same color, obviously, but it's a high twist BFL sock. So it's 80% superwash BFL and 20% nylon. But I like the way these turned out. I decided to just keep the main color going and not do a contrasting heel or toe. And I used Kate's pattern, which has you do a unkitchenered toe. So you basically just decrease down to a handful of stitches and then pull them through, and they match pretty well. I mean, I know it's hand-dyed yarn, so that the width of stripes aren't going to be always perfect, and neither is my tension, but I ended up with one that has a little bit of black on the toe and the other one that doesn't quite get there. So they look like the same size, so hopefully they fit. I have another pair of socks to knit for her. I'm going to do another shorty. I'm going to do it with a shadow wrap heel, I think. And I'm thinking of doing a scrappy sock. So I was looking at a pattern. I don't know who makes it. It's the same person who did the Rose City Rollers, which are a rolled cuff shorty, which are very, very popular. She has another pattern called How I Roll or How We Roll, which is sort of a continuation of that initial pattern. But she goes through how she does sort of a faded, blendy, scrappy sock. So I thought that might be fun. So she'll have one stripy pair and one faded pair. But those will get started probably in July, I would think sometime. I need to download the pattern, dig through my scraps, see what I've got to work on. So those are my two FOs. In terms of continuing whips that are going on, as you know, I'm working on Tilly the Hare. Tilly the Hare. Here it is. But one of Louise Crowther's knitted animal friends. I've done the little dress I showed it last time, the body, the head, and I've done one ear. This is my intarsia that I was talking about. Now I've done the other ear. So I have legs, arms, and cardigan and bloomers to go. So I think the plan will be, I was going to take the arms. The arms and the legs are pretty straightforward. The legs, because there's a little foot pad, have a little bit of tarja on them. I thought about taking maybe those on vacation. They're quick little projects, but I think I've got enough time. It's still a week away. I could probably get the legs done before I go, and then maybe just take the arms with me because those are really easy. It's just basically like straight stockinette for 45 rows or something. And then that just leaves me the cardigan and the bloomers when I get back to wrap that up for a sort of mid-July send-off to its recipient. So that is Tilly the Hare, still in progress. The other thing that's still in progress, again, this is a fall project that I'm trying to make a little bit of progress on each month. This is my Marled Magic shawl from Stephen West. Also a gift, I think, unless it turns out hideous, in which case they didn't know it was going to be a gift, so they will be none the wiser. I have finished section 2, so I was trying to do kind of a section a month through July, and then I'll really ramp things up in the once we get through the later part of the summer. So let's see, how is this? This is the wrong side. So here's the right side. So this was section 1, was this mesh section with the mohair. And then this was section 2, which was really, really fun for me to work on. So this seed stitch, kind of fade marl situation. All these are all scraps, fingering weight scraps that I've used, and this is a great scrap busting project. But I really love how that kind of played out. Now, the person that's getting this, who's also the same person that's getting the socks, when I was asking about colors for the socks, I was like, any preference? She's like, well, anything's fine. Any color's fine. I just don't really wear purple or blue. So, luckily, the rest of this pattern, I don't think I come back to blues and purples that much. There's a lot of orange in it because I know she does love orange, and there's other colors. So the next section, in fact, is orange, and it's a brioche section. I don't get it close there, but it's I think the main colored yarn. So this is a brioche, single color brioche with a single strand of fingering held with a lace mohair. And I believe that the main color, the fingering weight, is Golden Sheep's Fiber, who's no longer dying, but was a early end AIDS knit along, maybe the first year. I see the shawl that was over there. I can't remember the name of the shawl, but it was a lacy shawl. But I think that's the main color. And then the mohair is a mini from Blue Fiber Company that I had. So it's just been fun. I really enjoyed working on this project. One, just sort of like playing with these colors. It's a little more creative than I usually get, since I'm a kind of stick to the pattern kind of guy most of the time. So it's been kind of fun playing with scraps, digging through my scraps and remembering all the projects that came before. And I think it's going to be a really fun project. So I hope it turns out great looking, because I think she will really like it if it does look if it turns out looking great. The other thing, and I'm not going to show it, is my habitation shawl, habitation throw, Helen Stewart, from a advent from 100 years ago, that I'm just slowly working through over the course of the year. I barely have picked it up. I've made a little bit of progress now that this is done, and my TV, this round and round and round, was perfect for TV. I'm kind of back to needing something that doesn't require counting or a lot of attention, and that's perfect for that. So hopefully, over the next couple months, I'll make a little more progress, because it's been slow this last month, as I was really racing to try to get this t-shirt done. But I mentioned I've started, so there are 4 new starts, and this is all due to try to get things ready for vacation, because I didn't want to wait till the last second and then be like, oh my gosh, what am I going to take? I need to figure out a pattern. So I wanted, for most things, I want to get started. I don't want to jump in the car or jump on the plane and then be casting on for something, because I know neither of those environments are great, at least for me, for casting on. So I wanted to get a little bit of work done on things to kind of get going. So it's been a minute since I did a pair of socks for myself, and I'd said that the next pair of socks I did for myself, I wanted to be a solid or a tonal. And then I got the yarn from Rachel at Pearls and Polish as part of her yarn swap, and I thought, perfect. It was this solid red, tonal red with a blue contrast, and I started digging through patterns and books, and I decided that I was going to cast on, and this was going to be my vacation project, or one of them, the Harriet socks by Summer Lee. Here's a picture. So here's the yarn. It's from Woolberry. It is called "My Courage Always Rises," which is, I have been told, a quote from Pride and Prejudice. So I'm calling these my Jane Austen Harriet socks. So that's the main color here is the blue, which is the mini. So I was going to do the Harriet socks, which have little cables on them, and then I was going to use the blue just for the heel, I believe. So here is where I am. Where's the cable? Kind of hard to see. There's the cables. And very quickly, after doing just a couple of repeats, I thought dark colored yarn, trying to do cables without a cable needle, like in a car, on an airplane, might not have been the wisest choice. And so I said, well, no harm, no foul. I've cast on. I've made it through the first few rounds of this. I get the pattern. I will just put these on hold, and these will be my first sock pattern when I come back from vacation. So I will pick these back up, and I will still have a pair of solid socks by not too late in the future. But I just thought that was a recipe for failure or trouble, frustration, whatever you want to call it, by trying to do these cables in less than ideal knitting environments. So those have gone on hold moments after they were started. And so then I moved on, and I'd had this thought in mind for a while, actually before Rachel sent me that yarn. I'd gotten an inspiration from Rachel's podcast, Pearls and Polish. Check it out. She had recommended a pattern called Slack Tied Socks by Lindsay Fowler as one of, I think she had made it, and it was one that she liked. And I had, during some sale at Knit Picks, picked up some Stroll Tweed, which I thought would be a great pair of socks. And interestingly enough, the photo on the pattern may be these exact colors, but it looks like it's tweed sock. I should probably look and unravel and see what it is. So I said, I'm gonna cast those on. Now I have eyes, so I could see, but in my mind, the yarn was lighter than it is. It's very much like not quite like a midnight navy, but it's a dark blue with tweedy bits. So here's that. And so the socks have a very subtle patterning that happens on the back of the leg and then on the front of the foot. And it's just a series of purl channels that I don't know if you're going to be able to see them, but maybe if I spread it out, you can see one there. I'm going the wrong way. There they are. But there, you can see them. And there's two, and then you add two more, and then you add two more. And I'm doing it to the pattern. I'm making each channel a little bit longer because the leg I wanted a little bit longer. Again, maybe not the best choice. The good news is, even in poor lighting, I can do these. I better than I can do the cable, because one, it's just counting. So you're just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 purl, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 purl. Counting the rows of how many rows you've done. I guess I could get a chain counter, but that seems a little bit too much. But you can also feel on the backside, you can feel where the purl happens, and so you have a little bit of a tactile clue that you've either missed it or it's coming up. So even though I don't know that these are going to be great in less than ideal lighting, I'm going to go ahead and bring them. I have a fair amount of knitting time, I think, on this trip. I mean, there are both flights and driving involved. So depending on who drives, usually on vacation I do the driving, but I may be able to strike a bargain to do more to do more knitting, but we shall see. But then we also have some days where it's going to be a lot of time for me to knit because we'll be at an event that I can knit at, and then so I'm going to bring these, but I did think that perhaps it might not be the best project for all of the stuff that I'm doing. The other project that I was planning to bring was my Pride Pod Mal project. So these are going to go. We will see how much work gets done on them. As I had this thought, I was like, maybe I should have just done like a plain vanilla pair of self-striping sock yarn. Lord knows I have enough of it. I could just grab a skein in like brighter colors. It'll be easier to see in low light situations. It's vanilla, so there's just if I'm sitting watching something, I can just go round and round and round and round. I don't even have to think about it. Even maybe just do tubes and then decide to do afterthought heels after just like knit a big sock tube. But then I was like, do I really want to have 3 separate pairs of socks started? So I had a different thought, but we'll get to that because the other project that I was planning on taking was my Pride Pod Mal project. So if you have been following along, you have seen me opening last year's, so the 2024 Pride Pack countdown from Republic of Yarnia. Mary at Republic of Yarnia during last year's Pride Pod Mal sent it to me. I received it sort of halfway through the make along, so I was like, I want to use it, but I don't want to try to start one more thing because I can't remember even what I was working on last year. But I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold on to these. I'm not going to unwrap them. I'm going to hold on them till next year. And during Pride Month, before I even knew that we would be doing the Pride Pod Mal again, I just said during Pride Month, I will do something with these. So then Peggy reached out. We decided we're going to do the Pride Pod Mal again. I was like, perfect. This is perfect for that. I will use these yarns, and I'm going to I decided to make Jonathan Tallow's Brioche Adventure. Here's a picture of his finished project. And then I thought, oh, well, she's selling her 2025 Pride Pack. It's a fundraiser for the Trevor Project. Perfect. Craftivism. Love it. Why don't I kind of to get people interested in that and just sort of, build a little something for the make along and just to have something fun to do. I'll open a package every couple of days. So there's a skein of yarn for one day, and then the next day is a little queer medieval fun fact. She's a medieval historian. Her yarn is inspired by medieval art. And so she's put together these little fun facts from medieval history that have something to do with, the queer community. And so I thought I'd, unwrap one and read one. And so that is what I've been doing for the last month. I stopped reading the fun facts because it dawned on me and then confirmed that, there's only probably so many queer medieval fun facts. And if she's doing the same thing for this year or next year, she may need to recycle some of these. And so I was like, I don't want to spoil everyone's fun. So I stopped with the reading of those and left a few of them a mystery, but I've been unwrapping the yarn as you've seen. And I've created this fade to do the Brioche Adventure, and I have cast on a little bit early. Again, whips count, so even though I'm a little bit early, because I, again, did not want to. The pattern starts with and create a giant I-cord and then pick up stitches. That's not something I need to be doing on either in a moving car or on a plane. So I wanted to, and also wanted to get kind of familiar with the brioche pattern and the increases and the decreases that happen. So I have started. I should have taken a picture of the fade before I set it up. I can show you. I'm not taking all of the yarn with me. I'm going to take 6, a little over a full skein. So because there's 6 20-gram minis. Let me just grab them. Sorry. So I can show you kind of where, at least early on, it's going. But it was a really great pack. So there was kind of a solid color that then moved into a variegated or a speckle, and then another solid that tied into that. So it actually kind of created, I wasn't sure, but it kind of created its own fade. I'll talk a minute about one little change that I made. So here we are. I cast on. So mine is starting with orange. So I cast on, and the solids were these really bright, fun, kind of neon-y highlighter colors. So I started with the bright orange, and then the flip side, you may not be able to see it on the project so, but it's a speckle. Here it is in here it is in cake form. Boop. So it has, this kind of has almost all the colors in it, like reds and pinks and greens and purples. So those are the two that I've started with, and then I'm going the ones that are coming with me on the trip, and if I get through all 6 of them, my gosh, that'll be fantastic. I've made no promises of finishing this project in Pride Month, but give it a go. So then I'm going to go to green, and then the green variegated, and then this bright yellow, and then to a yellow and then red, and so on and so forth. So far, going well. Haven't made any brioche mistakes yet, so fingers crossed on that. It is a pretty straightforward pattern, but someone, I think it was Marianne, had said, "Oh, I just finished it. It's a great travel project," and I think she's going to be right. I think this is going to be a very good travel project because there's no fancy increases or decreases. It's it's a parallelogram, so you just increase on one side, decrease on the other, and you just kind of work a certain number of rows in brioche. Then there's like a garter section, and then you flip. So the contrasting color, I think this is like syncopated brioche. So the contrasting color will then become the main color when you switch to the next piece of the fade. So I think it's gonna be fun. I think it is something that I can work on. This is perfect plain knitting for me, assuming I don't make any mistakes. But because the increases and decreases are fairly limited, I think it's going to be pretty straightforward. So I think that'll be a good airplane, maybe car if I'm not driving, piece of it. Definitely in the hotel, at night project. So as I said, I'm taking the slack-tied sock with me. A little unsure that that's going to be a great project for a lot of the time that I'm going to have knitting. We'll see. Maybe it'll be perfect. But I decided to cast on one more thing. And this is something that was a deadline for the fall. So it's going to be a winter gift for someone. It's been on in my queue for 100 years. And I looked at the pattern. I brought it up because it's been sitting. I have the yarn all picked out, and it's been sitting there. And I looked at the pattern. I was like, oh wow, this looks like really straightforward. I just because of the look of it, I was like, I thought it was going to be a much more complicated pattern, but it's a very straightforward pattern. And I said, well, let me cast it on and just like play around with it a little bit and see how this goes. It is coming along great. I'm really loving how this is looking. So this is the Zick Zack scarf by Christy Zam, I think is her name. Like I said, it's been in my queue for a long time, and it's just a scarf, but it is inspired by the fabrics of Missoni, the Italian fabric designer. And so it has it's this chevron. So you use 2 different colorways. And I'm using the yarn that's recommended. I don't know that I have the exact colors that were recommended. Here's a picture of the photos. The photos look fantastic. This is a gift, as I mentioned, for a friend of mine who laments that growing up his parents never let him have a Missoni scarf or a Missoni sweater or something. And we used to work together. And I said, well, I'm not going to go out and buy you a Missoni sweater, but maybe I can make you something that's similar. So it's 2 colors of Lang Mille Colori Baby, which is a fingering weight merino, superwash merino. Oh, it's 100%. I thought there was some. I I thought there was some acrylic in there. It is a color changing. So the two colors is like color 33 and color 53 or whatever. The two colors I'm using are these. So, they're self-striping. I think the repeats, well, I thought they were longer than they were. But I thought that this blue one, it looked like it's going to be kind of multiple repeats of this like blue to light blue. So that would be kind of more the stable. And then this one changes to a bunch of different colors. So I thought that would be a really fun contrast. But it is a fantastically simple pattern. I was able to knit on it watching TV, but I think it looks great. It kind of is a has a vibe of one of like a Zandy Peters design, but is a much more easy to work on. I've worked on Zandy's patterns before, and he writes them up very, very well. But there's, it's not something that I can just sit and knit on. So this is definitely something I can just sit and knit on. So this is, I think, going to be a perfect travel project. It's small, compact enough. I can take it in like a little bag when we go to different events. I can sit there and knit on this while those are going on. And I don't think I'll knit far enough in it where it becomes this long, unwieldy scarf. So you have 2 balls of yarn, 2 of each should make enough to make the scarf. And again, this is for a winter gift, so I'm just getting a head start on it. So I don't have a deadline. As soon as I come back home, I can put it aside and pick it up later once I've gotten through Tilly the Hare and the Moral Magic, things that have a earlier fall, winter or summer or fall deadline. So that's the Zig Zag scarf. Highly recommend. I mean, now that I'm doing it, I'm like looking at all of this like fingering weight, self-striping yarn behind me, and think that could be a really fun project to use other self-striping. I just had not even thought about it. But I think those are 50-gram balls, so 200-gram skeins of self-striping yarn in sort of complementary colors. I think that would be a really fun scarf to make as gifts. So that is what I have in terms of FOs and whips and new starts, and anything on the horizon. I don't think so, because it's all going to be about Tilly the Hare until we get through mid-July, and then then from there we'll see how the late summer starts to look. I would like to start a cardigan sweater for myself, but that won't have a deadline on it, so I can start or finish it whenever. In terms of acquisitions, I mentioned the LA Yarn Crawl. That's been the only thing that has happened, although I know that my Woolens and Nosh is coming today, because I got the alert, and Michelle had a shop update, and there were some really great colors. So I supplemented my monthly sock yarn club with some additional colorways. It's that FOMO. It's that fear that she's never going to dye them again, and I should grab them while I can, even though chances are, they're not going to get retired anytime soon. But I'll have them now. So anyway, on the yarn crawl, I mentioned I went up and saw Ross at Twisted Ambitions at the Altered Stitch. I got 2 things from him. So the first one is definitely going to be, well, I think they're both going to be socks. But I've wanted, I have a ton of self-striping yarn. All of the socks I've made so far have been self-striping, so I've kind of wanted to transition to do maybe one that's like more solid, more tonal, and because I wear a ton of blue, I thought this would be great. It is a fantastic blue speckles, so mainly white, but like blue and gray speckles. The colorway is called Drops of Jupiter, and then I got this little mini, which is his Lemnos colorway, this kind of tealy dark blue. I'm not doing a very good job here, am I? But those are definitely going to become socks. Maybe vanilla, maybe just something with some texture. I think that would be a good use for speckled yarns. Probably not cables, just maybe some knit and purl texture. The other one I got is a colorway called Ocean. And I got to be honest, if I saw this, and I did see this on the rack, I would not have been drawn to it, but that Ross did a very smart thing and had sock tubes knit up in all of his colorways. I've seen this at shows a lot where people will do either sock tubes or panels to show you how the fabric looks, either as socks or as panels, to show you if there's potential for pooling or whatever, or they'll do it in crochet like granny squares, or just straight crochet, and it's hugely helpful if you're someone like me who really has a hard time visualizing how certain things are going to knit up. So he had a sock tube knit up, and this was so gorgeous. It was way more blended than I think I would have guessed from this from the soup. So it was just almost not quite, it didn't look like a solid because there were a bunch of colors in there, but it was a much more blended jewel tone fabric that I thought was absolutely beautiful. Probably will just be a vanilla pair of socks because I love the way that it looked just knit up in stockinette. So that was Ocean. These are both on his Sweet Sock base, which are 75 25. And then didn't buy anything at Wild Fiber. Saw again some of Sarah's amazing blends that I think would make a really great t-shirt. Now that I'm in my t-shirt phase or era. And so that may be something that will be a great thing to look at Flock, because again, very low chances that I won't pick up something at Flock, and maybe if I plan ahead and have a pattern in mind, I could pick up some of her yarn, because I think some of those like silk and or silk wool linen blends would make a really nice summer weight top. Went to Knitting Tree. Lindsay from Olive Fiber was there, and I just saw this. I thought, again, this would be a really fun. She had it knit up in a shawl. It looked really cute. I think it was a crocheted shawl. Colorway is called Broken Colors, or Broken Crayons. Sorry, Broken Crayons. Just fun. Lots of lighter colors with speckles. And again, I think that this will be a pair of socks. So, having fun planning my sock wardrobe going forward. But that's it in terms of the acquisitions. This has already gone a little bit longer than I expected. But I appreciate you hanging out and taking some time to spend it with me. I will be back in a couple of weeks. We will be partway into the Pride Pod Mal, so let me know down below in the comments, or head over to the Ravelry group what you're going to be working on during the Pride Pod Mal. We will find out how successful or unsuccessful some of this vacation knitting was when I'm back and film the next episode. But I do appreciate you taking some time out of your day to spend it with me. If you've enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, share with a friend. We continue to try to build this community. I will see you in a couple weeks, and enjoy summer. Take care.